and this is it. It's in a slab, sits right underneath the monitor. This is what it looks like. It's called NeXTSTation. It's a slab, monitor, keyboard, the mouse, the software.
Hello, welcome back to NMI. As you can guess, in this special video we're going to talk about NeXT computers, and in particular my very own NeXTSTation, which is a dream coming true. For different reasons, these machines achieved an iconic status in computing history, and we're going to learn why. We're going to look at the history of these machines, their architecture, hardware, software, disassemble my NeXTSTation, and upgraded it with a BlueSCSI device that I built from scratch myself. So stay with me, because this video is going to be super cool. Before we start, what about giving me a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel? That is going to help NMI grow and give me motivation to make more videos like this. Thank you. Okay, our story begins in 1985 with Steve Jobs, Apple's co-founder and a very well-known tech celebrity. Following an internal power struggle, Jobs decided to leave Apple and found a new computer company focused on higher education workstations, adopting an industry concept known as 3M, which stands for at least 1 MIPS, 1 million instructions per second, at least 1 megapixel display, meaning 1000 by 1000 resolution, and at least 1 megabyte of memory. The educational market was already very familiar to Jobs, and he knew he could design a machine that could match the 3M spec while being more affordable than the alternative 3M stations that would cost tens of thousands of dollars back then. We're talking here about mid 80s, right? So 1985, 86. Jobs took with him several members of his design team at Apple that worked on the Apple Lisa and the Macintosh. And by mid 1986, the new company, NeXT, started to work not only on the hardware of the workstation, but also on its software. The operating system for the workstation was named NeXTSTEP and was based on the Unix-compatible kernel Mach, with seamless integration with a brand new GUI that was designed in collaboration with Adobe and brought the page description language PostScript from the printers to the display, and was named Display PostScript, or DPS. Oh, and did I mention that NeXTSTEP was a fully object-oriented OS? Back then, most of its competitors were not object-oriented, and that was a very nice feature of NeXTSTEP. NeXT launched their first workstation on October 12, 1988. It was based on the Motorola 68030, running at 25 MHz with 8 megabytes of RAM and a 256 megabyte magneto-optical disk drive. It also included 16-bit 44 kHz audio with its very own DSP coprocessor and a 1120 by 832 pixel 17 inches monochrome display. Thanks to its case in the shape of a cube, the machine was known as NeXT Cube. The initial base price was $6,500, equivalent to $17,500 US in 2025. Note that in 1988, PCs were in their infancy. PCXTs were still sold, and PC-ATs, which were based on the Intel 286, were still mainstream. High-end PCs back then used the 386 running at 20 MHz and had 1 or maybe 2 megabytes of RAM. It is also worth mentioning that in 1988, PCs didn't have digital audio capabilities at all. The first 8-bit 23 kHz Sound Blaster was launched only in 1989. And in 1988, PC sound was basically limited to internal speaker, the majority of the machines, and for the enthusiasts, FM synthesis, using ad-lib sound cards or square wave oscillators, based on Creative Music System. But both systems were still brand new, and they were launched in 1987. About 2 years later, September 1990, the new generation of machines was launched, and it included an updated NeXT Cube and a new lower cost version, the NeXTSTation.
So let's go through real briefly. It's got the 68040 running at 15 MIPS. Comes with 8 megabytes of memory, expandable to 32 inside the slab. Our 2.88 megabyte floppy, DOS compatible, and 105 megabyte Winchester preloaded with all the software, and you can expand that to up to 340 megabytes inside the slab. It's got twisted, pair, and thin Ethernet, our MegaPixel monitor, keyboard, and mouse. It's got all of our sound stuff in it, DSP, CD sound, microphone, and NeXTSTEP 2.0, and our bundled applications. And the complete system is $49.95, whether you want to be a standalone user or a network user. And we're going to talk about what we think is going to be the most important new application area of the 1990s, called interpersonal computing. People told us they loved NeXTSTEP and that it was 3, 4, 5 years ahead of anything else they'd ever seen in the industry. And they loved the fact that we built it on top of Unix, because together this gave them the multitasking that they really wanted. It gave them the transparent networking that they needed. It gave them the object-oriented development environment so that they could build applications in a third of the time. It gave them PostScript everywhere, not just on the printer, but throughout the system. It gave them multimedia, and they told us they loved how they could take computer illiterates and they could be using the system within a very short amount of time. So this is what people told us they loved. We heard this over and over and over again, and it all came down to NeXTSTEP. All 4 of these new products use the Motorola 68040. Every single one of them running at 25 megahertz, and they turned out very fast. How fast? Let's take a look at a real-world example. I got out Mathematica, and I used Mathematica to calculate and plot this chart. And all the NeXT 040 machines came in at 26 seconds. That's 10 times faster than the Macintosh CI.
But in 1990, PCs were catching up. The higher-end PCs were now using Intel 486, and the competition was causing the prices to fall. And on the higher end, workstations were getting even more powerful using RISC processors, such as the RS6000 and the Sun Spark. And only 2 years later, in 1992, that Creative Labs would launch the Sound Blaster 16, which had similar audio quality. Okay, now let's take a look at my very own NeXTSTation. And this is it. This is my NeXTSTation. This is the standard version at 25 megahertz with a monochrome monitor. I'm going to show you a video that I recorded a couple weeks ago, the first power up, and I invite you to pay attention to how noisy the hard drive is. Because of the noisy hard drive, I decided to replace it with a BlueSCSI version 2, and that's what I'm doing now. So first we're gonna disassemble the whole machine, and I'm gonna show you all the details, and then I'm gonna assemble the BlueSCSI, 3D print the bracket, put everything together and try it. This is the megapixel display. It has a resolution of 1120 on the horizontal by 832 on the vertical. And it's capable of displaying white, 2 shades of gray, and black. It's a very interesting machine because it has built-in audio. And to be honest, it's not only the audio that it has built-in. Let me show you. Here on the back, we can see there's this big port here. This is connected to the NeXT machine, right? We see here audio output left and right, headphones, keyboard. That is pretty cool. So it's kind of odd, but on this machine the keyboard does not connect directly to the CPU, right? It connects to the monitor, and via this connector here the monitor sends all the signals to the computer. And we also have a microphone input here. Another very interesting thing that maybe you can see or you cannot see here is there's no power connector, right? So the power supply for the monitor also comes from the CPU, all via this connector, via this cable here. That's a very interesting design. To be honest, I never saw anything like this before, but I am not a good reference for that, right? This is my very first NeXT machine. I always dreamed about this. I'm not an expert on any kind of NeXT history or anything. I just find it extremely cool. I love the history behind this machine, and that's why I always dreamed having one. And now here it is. This is the CRT. Now I'm gonna show you the CPU. Here we have the CPU. This is the NeXTSTEPtion, also known as the slab, right? It has this form factor or design as like a pizza box, right? On the front here, the panel has basically just the logo. There's not much happening. It's a very cool design, right? On the side here, we have a floppy drive, right? The mechanism is basically the same as the Macintosh. There's no eject button, right? Like on the PCs or other computers. The eject is performed by software, right? On the back here, we have all the connectors, an external SCSI interface. I believe these are 2 ADB ports, a DSP port. This is an expansion for like sound and other equipment that is usually audio related, right? There is a DSP inside this machine. We're going to talk about that later. This is the monitor connector that I think it's a 15-pin DB connector. So here we have the video signal, power, the keyboard, and like the ADB signals from the keyboard come and the end mouse come here, right? This one, I am not sure what is this. Oh, I think this is a printer port. I'm not too sure. And here we have a network, right? We have the coaxial and an Ethernet connection. Yeah, connector. The Ethernet port looks, there's a bit of oxidation. And the power input, right? This is it. On the bottom, I don't know if we can, maybe it's easier to show this way. On the bottom here is the power supply, and we have these fins here that help the power supply dissipation, right? You can see here there is a fan. It needs some cleaning. The other side of the machine, there's nothing. It's just the case here, right? Now opening the NeXTSTEPtion is quite simple. All you have to do is to detach this screw, and that's what we're going to do now. And here we have, this is in the inside of the CPU. It's a beautiful design, right? Here we have the SCSI hard drive, which is very noisy, by the way. So this is one thing that I am gonna address as part of this video. We're gonna replace this hard drive. This is a Seagate ST1480. So I believe this is a 400 megabyte hard drive, SCSI interface, right? It connects here to the motherboard. Here we have the power supply, and we can see that the power supply, the output here, 5 volts 7 amps, 12 volts 4 amps, and minus 12 volts 3 amps. The power supply is super small, right? It's a very nice design. We have the fan here. Now, looking at the motherboard, here we have the main star of this machine. This is the Motorola 68040, 25 megahertz. There were 4 versions of this machine. The NeXTSTation, which is the standard, let's put this way, the standard model, the NeXTSTation. Then there was the NeXTSTation Turbo that had 68040 running at 33 megahertz. There was the NeXTSTation Color that was basically this machine but had a color video output. And then there was the NeXTSTation Turbo Color, so 33 megahertz 68040 and color output. That was the highest end machine. Basically this is the lowest end machine, that this one that I have here. I don't mind. Obviously it would be nice to have a higher end machine or a color one, but I am extremely happy with, oh, I need to connect my anti-static wrist. I'm extremely happy with this machine because, as I mentioned before, this is kind of a dream coming true. Okay, so this is the CPU, as I mentioned, 68040. We have an EEPROM here, 27C010. I'm gonna probably remove this EEPROM and make a copy, like a dump of this EEPROM. Here we have the main RAM. This machine has 20 megabytes of RAM. This is, I believe this is like a bridge or the chipset of the machine, right? It handles basically everything else in terms of the main interfacing of the machine. Everything else, I mean, the SCSI interface is handled by this guy, the NCR53C90A, right? We have another IC, it's from Motorola here, 6392P. I'm not sure what this guy is doing. Oh, but it's probably related to the video output there. What else? Here we have another important piece of this design. This is, let me turn it here. So as I mentioned, here, this is the DSP. This is a Motorola 56001. This is a very interesting IC. This is, I believe it's a 24-bit DSP. So the idea here was that this would be a coprocessor that would help the CPU or free up the CPU for everything that is audio related. So we can understand that this machine, one of the main focus of this design was to have an impressive, amazing audio or impressive and amazing audio capabilities, and that's why we see a DSP here, right? We also see a lithium battery here, right? Which did not leak from what I see, so that's good. That's good news. Now, one thing I mentioned, one thing that I need to do is to replace this hard drive. It is super noisy. We already saw it, and I believe it's gonna fail pretty soon. And I don't want it to fail right now. Well, it's gonna fail at some point, but I want to replace it before it fails, right? So we're gonna remove this hard drive here, and I'm gonna show you we're gonna replace it with a BlueSCSI interface, which I built from scratch, and we're gonna talk about that soon. So let's remove this guy. This is the power connector here. It's super hard to remove. Oh, yep, okay. I am afraid of, like, you know, damaging the motherboard. I'm not too sure what is the function of this connector here. We see the RAM here, but I'm not too sure what is the function of this connector here. If you know anything, please comment in the video. I would love to learn what is the function of this connector. It is like it resembles, or it's exactly like a SIM memory module. Oh, okay, and here we have the hard drive, right? It's a big hard drive because again we're talking here about early 90s, right? And the mechanism that connects it to the, yeah, mechanically, the mechanical connection here is pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Very well designed. Now we can see here that this whole space here is empty just because the hard drive sits here. But I'm gonna show you. Right now I'm printing on the 3D printer. I'm printing the bracket that is gonna sit here, and let me show you the BlueSCSI that I assembled. Here we have the BlueSCSI. It is this version. This is the BlueSCSI V2. It is based on the Raspberry Pi Pico, right, which is mounted here. This is a pretty cool open source project. I'm gonna add the link in the video description. Basically, the purpose is to replace SCSI mass storage device. So we know that just like this hard drive here, right, they're all aging and failing. So you want these machines to keep going, and the purpose is that here of the BlueSCSI, you replace the hard drive with this guy and an SD card, right? So on the SD card you can have hard drive images that are presented to the system just like a hard drive, a real hard drive, right? So the machine will never know that it's not dealing with an actual hard drive, but in fact it's dealing with an SD card, and that makes it easier to, you know, replace files, change stuff without fearing any damage, right? Because again, this hard drive here is gonna fail sooner or later. It is gonna fail, and this thing is gonna add a lot of, you know, years to this machine. So I expect it to work for several years. As I mentioned, I assembled this board by hand, and I have to say it's tricky, especially because they make use of 402 resistors here, right? And there are also some here. Those are the trickiest ones to solder by hand. Another challenge that I had was, well, that's not really a challenge, it was just a mistake that I made. The silk screen for these ICs, the way the pin 1 is marked is not always very clear, and honestly I didn't pay a lot of attention. So I then identified most of these guys, the pin 1 of them, but these two here, they are reversed, right? Pin 1 of these guys is here, right? So what happened is that I mounted them the other way around, and the device here, the board was not working properly, right? And it was overheating. This fuse here was overheating, and I had to do some probing until I found that these two ICs here, they were mounted in the wrong way. As soon as I replace these two, the board is fully working. There's another important point. At first I forgot to add this jumper, right? And as you can see here, it says target or initiator. And the function of this jumper is to inform the firmware here of the BlueSCSI if you want this to be a target, meaning to act like a hard drive, right? Or if you put it like this as initiator, then you also need to populate this other jumper here. In this way, you are configuring the firmware to act as initiator, or in other words, a host, right? So this allows you to copy or image an external device connected here. So you're going to connect another hard drive here, and you're going to image that hard drive into the SD card that you will connect here. This is the purpose of the initiator mode. Obviously, like for normal operation, you don't want that. But I forgot to populate this jumper, and then the board does not work without it, right? So make sure that you have this jumper connected as a target, in target mode. The other thing that I was not sure was like, do I need to provide power here, right? I didn't have the right connector for power, which is I can't remember the name, but it's the same kind of connector that you see in like the 3.5 inches floppy drives. So I didn't have the connector, but I could use a pin header like this. But I did some research, and I found that on the NeXT, the BlueSCSI can work without this power, just powered by the connector here, the SCSI connector. And that's how we're proceeding. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna install the BlueSCSI like this, right? As I mentioned, I am printing or 3D printing the bracket that is gonna keep it in place, and I'm gonna clean up this board. We have the bracket. It took like almost 5 hours to print. Pretty nice. I'm gonna leave the link to where you can get the files on the video description. It is supposed to go here. Oh, pretty nice, right? And then the BlueSCSI goes here. Just need to find, I don't know if maybe I'm gonna need thread inserts. I'm gonna use some M2.5 screws here, and this is all I got from AliExpress. Is this the right thread? Yeah, it is. Very cool design, this bracket. Thanks. I'm linking in the description. I don't recall what is the name of the author, but I'm gonna mention in the video description. Thank you for this cool design. And here we have the BlueSCSI bracket. Now I'm gonna install it on my NeXTSTation, and we're gonna boot it up, see if it's working. and we're going to take a look at the software. Connect this. Done. Now I'm gonna let me get my microSD card. Well, it's a microSD with an SD adapter, right? It goes here, and we're good to go. Okay, here we go. I have the BlueSCSI there. Let's power on the here. Connect the power. And press power on here on the keyboard. Okay. I saw an LED blinking on the BlueSCSI, but why is it trying to load from the network? That's not good. Well, this video is already 30 minutes long, so we're going to stop here, and in the next part we're going to check the operation of the BlueSCSI on my NeXTSTation and take a look at NeXTSTEP and all the cool things it brought to the table, from an amazing development environment to the first web browser and Doom. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to NMI, and enable the notifications. Don't forget to leave a comment, and see you next time. Bye!